Okay. We don't know each other, but I wondered if I could ask you a couple questions. The first is, if you are comfortable, if you want to move closer to the front so that we're all a bit closer together, feel free, but only if you're comfortable. I'll wait a moment. Thank you. The other question I wanted to ask is, how are you? Feeling pretty good? Yeah, me too. I used to get really nervous when I spoke, but I don't anymore, and part of why not is what this talk is about. I used to be very anxious in general, and a lot of that was because my phone was making me anxious. Had also stopped enjoying movies, and I've never liked guitar solos. And those three things, guitar solos and movies and my phone, have something in common. Do you have any idea where I'm going with this? Does it make any sense to you at all? So we're about a minute into this talk, and my speaking coaches asked me to always say something shocking by now, some kind of a hook. That's so that you won't leave me. But I couldn't bring myself to do it. So just stay with me for these 20, 25 minutes, if you can. And I've heard that people like my voice, so maybe that will be enough to keep you here. I'll try. I lower it a little bit, and it sounds even better. So I'm Brie Code. I'm the CEO and creative director of True Love. It's a Toronto-based studio where we make AI companions. And previously, I was a lead programmer at Ubisoft Montreal on 3 Assassin's Creed games. And I'm a bit of a known expert in the games industry. And right now, I'm very interested in changing the way that we relate with technology in general. So at True Love, we're developing a new interaction model for technology on the basis that love feels better than winning. And we're building it on solid science and good iterative design practices. We combine data-driven psychological frameworks with game design and game AI in new ways for calm and growth. So our first little prototype, this gentle and kind friend in your phone called #selfcare, tested some of our ideas. #selfcare has reached over 1 million downloads with no advertising, and was named one of Apple's best of 2018. So I'll come back to #selfcare in a bit, but I'm very happy about it. So this shape, let's talk about this first. This is how our relationship, yours and mine, is supposed to be structured. I'm supposed to have hooked you with something shocking and then take you on this journey of rising tension to a climax, followed by a short denouement before I leave you. And this is the structure of most Western forms of entertainment, from film to guitar solos to the way that we interact with our phones. Do you see it now? Does it make sense? So as app designers, we frequently work with stress and reward to take our users, our audiences, on this journey of rising tension. We stress people with conflict or danger or hard challenges or notifications or scrolls of algorithmic content, and this stress exploits their fight or flight response. The fight or flight response makes us instinctively want to win, to master the challenge presented. When we win, we feel satisfied, and our stress response ends until we're presented with another challenge, or perhaps with some kind of unachievable challenge like an endless scroll. The fight or flight response, though, is one pathway to some pretty delicious neurochemicals, and that's why we do this. But do you enjoy these experiences? If you're in this room, you probably do, and it's fine, and many do. But for me personally, the music and films and games and apps that I enjoy are very much in spite of this pattern of shock and rising tension, and not because of it. Because I like character development, not plot. I just want to get to know the characters and be in their lives as good things happen for them. Deepening connection, not rising tension, is what makes me feel fulfilled, because I'm a lover, not a fighter. And so I invite you to stay with me for another moment. I've asked myself why I don't care about winning. And I found my answer in some research from the UCLA Social Neuroscience Lab from 2000. About half of us, or all of us some of the time, have a different response to stress and pressure beyond the well-known fight or flight response. Despite being told in school that the fight or flight response is my stress response, it's normally not. My most frequent stress response is called tend-and-befriend. It was first named at the UCLA Social Neuroscience Lab in 2000. And it's little known still, but very prevalent. A lot of us react this way. So when you experience a tend-and-befriend reaction, you aren't interested in winning. Instead, you instinctively want to take care of people or things, especially those who are more vulnerable than you, and connect with your friends and allies, and find collaborative solutions that work for everyone involved. And we do this often in small and big ways. This is why during floods and fires and earthquakes and hurricanes, we usually tend to help each other rather than to all start brawling inexplicably. And interestingly, unlike fight or flight, these feelings are not only triggered by stressful events. And also, unlike fight or flight, they don't end suddenly when the conflict is over. Because care and connection make us want more care and connection. Love creates more love neurochemically. This is a pathway to other very delicious neurochemicals. And if you like cute animal videos, or organizing your bookshelf, or reading joyful gossip about your favorite celebrities or influencers or creators online, or knitting for charity, or cooking dinner for your family, you may be enjoying some delicious tend-and-befriend feelings. Tend-and-befriend is also why I enjoy designing tidy, well-structured software systems and making apps that help people. Because love feels as satisfying as, or better, than winning for at least some of us and probably most of us. And how do you feel as I described tend-and-befriend to you? Had you heard of it before? And if not, does it feel at all familiar to you from any time where you've been stressed in your life? When I first read about tend-and-befriend, I suddenly understood myself so much better. Tend-and-befriend gave me a way to understand why I never seem to care about winning petty conflicts, and how maybe that isn't weakness, but instead a different form of strength. I suddenly understood so much of meetings I'd been in, my reactions to things, my game-playing behavior, the things I do online. All of it through this lens makes a lot of sense. And maybe that's as exhilarating to you as it was to me. But no matter what is in my heart, this is what is on my phone, this curve. And for those of us who have that tend and befriend response, our phones are stressing us in an effort to engage us, but then not giving us opportunities to do our natural stress response behaviors and leaving us potentially feeling pretty anxious. Our phones were not designed for us because they weren't designed by us. And so that's the first of two reasons that my phone was leaving me anxious and disengaged, disconnected, feeling pretty empty. So after I read about Tend and Befriend, I decided to try something. I wondered if we could create an app that worked not with rising stress and reward to engage people, but with deepening care and connection. I co-designed this app with Eve Thomas, an artist and magazine editor in Montreal. I co-designed it with her because she comes from outside the tech industry. She's not interested in video games or gamification, and she is interested in media and culture and good feelings and strength and calm. And I thought that she could help me break outside of the patterns that I had been trained in my entire career. In our app, #selfcare, there's a character who refuses to leave their bed. They're taking a mental health day and they're surrounded by their favorite things like crystals and tarot cards and succulents. And each thing has a sort of mini game inside of it. And in each mini game, instead of following interaction curves of rising tension from small wins to big wins, or from beginner to the most powerful person in the world, or from easy to hard, we created different curves of deepening connection. So our interactions go from messy to tidy, from awkward to smooth, from empty to full, or from disconnected to connected. And they get easier over time, not harder. Our interactions are all about deepening care and deepening connection, and never about domination, never about winning. As best we could, we made the relationship between the user and the character non-hierarchical. So you're not bossing the character around, and the character is also not tracking you and telling you what you need. Instead, as you play, you help the character feel better, and the character helps you feel better at the same time. You help each other like friends. And I first introduced the implications of the Tend and Befriend theory to the games industry at the annual Game Developers Conference in 2017. This theory implies a paradigm shift for interaction design. It provides a framework through which we can perhaps make a new kind of product that doubles the games industry and maybe change the way that we interact with technology in general, maybe. And in response to this beautiful idea, many people have cried in my talks, and they come to talk to me afterward, and I've received warm and lovely messages and emails from people who feel seen, or who, like me, feel like they're suddenly understanding some part of themselves so much better. To my surprise, I've also been called wrong and harmful and crazy, and I've been told repeatedly that my company will fail. When I speak about this idea, I often receive bad faith questions after the talk, or angry rants afterward from people in the audience. They approach me in person and in messages and emails. And before we proved with #selfcare that this works, my mentors were worried about me, and some designers I respected in the games industry told me I was wrong, or that I wasn't capable of understanding basic game design after a long, successful career of doing exactly that. I only mentioned this to be factual about what it's like to be a woman putting forth revolutionary and feminine ideas in an industry dominated by men. So when we released #selfcare, I wasn't sure what would happen because no one believed me. And I knew I had some people crying in my talk, so there was something there. I knew I had some very worried mentors and dismissive and condescending peers, and I also had pretty okay beta test results. I knew in my heart that there was something there, but I wasn't sure how easy it would be to find it, so I was hoping that maybe we could get a few thousand users and iterate with their feedback and discover how to use Tend and Befriend to inform some kind of new design patterns and new interaction curves. But it turns out that we didn't need to iterate, because instead, without advertising or any effort spent on user acquisition whatsoever, we didn't optimize our App Store description, nothing like that. We had 500,000 downloads in the first 6 weeks, and we were overwhelmed with messages and really generous and beautiful reviews that confirmed our hypotheses directly in ways that I wasn't expecting to see. It's true that the reason our fans like the app is because deepening connection does feel pretty good. So we get feedback like this. It's like it put me in a trance. It's the most calming app I have. Or I feel like the little avatar is looking out for me as much as I am looking out for them. Or thank you for this app. I can tell it will change my life. And this is just a really early prototype. It's designed to be played for 3 to 5 minutes, maybe a few times. We're only just getting started with what we're capable of doing and will be doing in this space. But I'm really, really happy to see that it works. But also that's really weird, right? Like, when I saw how easily this worked, I couldn't get off my couch for a week. I found it pretty overwhelming, because if this works, the implications are pretty big. If the tend-and-befriend response is so common, why haven't we designed for it? Why haven't we built it into all of the frameworks we use to think about interaction design? Why so little known, and then why was it so easy to access? So I know the answer to that. Like me, female rats love to love. Male rats have a fight or flight response to stress, and early stress research was frequently done by men studying male rats. And when female rat data didn't fit the sample, they blamed menstruation and threw it out. That happens a lot, actually. Among humans, women and men may have either response, but we may be able to say that more feminine people tend to have a tend-and-befriend response, and more masculine people tend to have a fight or flight response, whatever masculinity and femininity are. But regardless, early stress research involved one kind of person studying one kind of reaction and assuming that nothing else existed. And this has really influenced the way that we think about stress and engagement and many other things. And I was horrified when I read that. And then I read more, and I looked around at my colleagues in the tech industry, and I wondered about the scope of this arrogance, I might call it. And then the immediate success of #selfcare sort of confirmed that scope to me, and that's the second source of my anxieties. And so now, since our launch, I feel like my eyes are open, and each morning as I balance precariously in the shower trying to shave my legs, which is something that a lot of people do in the shower, I wonder and I notice that there is no ledge or nook to put my foot on. While I do that, I contemplate how many fields of science still disproportionately study male rodents. I have a Google News alert for some certain neurochemical names and things like this, and even studying oxytocin, a lot of the studies still are being done only with men. I contemplate how we didn't know the shape of the clitoris until 1998 and how it's still incorrectly defined all over the internet today. I contemplate how no one in power noticed that airbags were very dangerous for shorter people until 2011. And I think about how color film was optimized for light skin and how this injustice continues today in the design of face tracking and eye tracking. And I think about how, as a visible woman in the tech industry, I have 117,687 petty harassers in my Twitter block list so far. And those are little fighters engaged in predictable reactions to a platform that is designed to put them into their fear response. So the first reason that my phone was leaving me anxious was because it feeds me with notifications and endless scrolls that neurochemically I don't connect with. I don't care about winning all of my notifications or dominating the endless scroll. The second reason that my phone was leaving me anxious is what is in those endless scrolls, the content. Because when I look at the world, I see that a lot of this world was not designed for me, was not designed by people like me. Our society, all of it, has been designed and constructed largely by and for one kind of person over generations, and that doesn't change very fast. So our products, our processes, our structures, our frameworks, our rules, our roles, our values, our systems, our art, our institutions have been designed largely by and for one kind of person, a person who tends to like to win or who's been pressured to repress half of his natural power in order to not be seen as weak. But now I see these injustices as responsibilities and also opportunities. There's something really transformative to know about tend-and-befriend, and that is that from a psychological perspective, we have much more choice than rats have. Although our stress response is immediate and reflexive, through mindset and through practice, each of us can learn to react to stress with a tend-and-befriend response over time. The science about this is clear. We can choose over time to immediately and reflexively respond with love. And that feels really good, and it feels good for the people around us, and it's more solution-oriented and collaborative and pro-social. And since I've realized this, I'm no longer anxious. I've been channeling a lot of stress. I've run a startup into care and connection and solutions that work for everyone through mindset change and through practice. And I've cured my anxiety by taking responsibility and choosing to react with love and not with fear. So I think we could slowly do this. We could disengage from platforms and interactions that are designed to encourage us to fight. We could stop developing such interfaces. We could, collaborate and change our mindsets and change our technologies. And the opportunities are really great, and we're just at the beginning of thinking about this. And so that's the time when you can create dramatic results. So #self-care, a tiny prototype, 3 to 5 minutes, designed by marginalized creators, a tiny budget, no user acquisition spend, over 1 million downloads, and one of Apple's best apps of last year. The beginnings, potentially, of a new interaction model that may be more psychologically and sociologically healthy. I think, as a world, we're in crisis, and if we can change our mindsets to be more solution-oriented and pro-social and be curious and compassionate and care and connect with each other, maybe we can also do something about fascism and the climate crisis before it is too late. I think we will. So, will you join me in cultivating these warm and gooey and delicious and pro-social and responsible and transcendent feelings? The next time you're in a hotel room and there's a shoe mitt but no tampons, or the next time you're at the gym and every television in front of the treadmills has rich white men telling not-so-white lies on it, please notice. And think of those ignored female rats in stress studies and how transformative their reactions are. And if you have the energy, stay in that moment and look into what anxieties you might be feeling and choose how you react, especially if you're a person who belongs to an underrepresented group. Your perspective probably hasn't been considered, designed for, etc., and you probably have some pretty valuable ideas of how we could, do things in a different way that would resonate with people like you that haven't been made or created yet. Thank you.